January 1996, I was diagnosed with a condition called multiple myeloma. Multiple myeloma is a little known but fatal cancer of the bone marrow. And with the progression of this disease, what happens is proteins in the body are produced at a dramatic rate, and this causes a lot of acid buildup, and the acid starts to dissolve the bones. So this is what multiple myeloma does. Because of that, I had a lot of back pain, and I was very fatigued. So I had to seek some kind of information. I wasn't sure what was going on. So I went to my doctor, and we did some blood tests, and he determined that I had symptoms of multiple myeloma. So in order to proceed with that, there were several things that I could do. One of the things he had me do was take some x-rays. There were some dissolved areas in my skull, in my ribs, and in my legs. These were also indicators of multiple myeloma. Anyhow, because this represented that the disease had been progressed to stage 3 or 4, my oncologist decided we needed to take a drastic step. So what we did is he advised me to try, and actually I did, 6 series of chemotherapy, and this was administered with a catheter in my chest, and I was given continuous chemotherapy for 4 days in a row, and then I had a break of 18 days, and then I would be on for 4 days on the chemo, off 18. Anyways, we did these for 6 different occasions. That was really a difficult and painful situation to go through, and it did result in a partial drop in my cancer cell count, but it did not put me anywhere close to remission. Then he decided, well, let's try some oral chemo. I did that, and there was a little drop in my count, and then I plateaued. Nothing happened. So he said, all right, well, there's one more thing we can do, because I wasn't really responding to the chemotherapy. He said, I have 3 choices. One, I could do nothing, and I would have a survival rate of maybe 2 years. The second thing I could do is take more massive doses of chemotherapy, and with steroids and other drugs, and maybe I would survive 3 to 5 years. The third choice was a bone marrow transplant. And a bone marrow transplant is painful and rigorous, and presents a variety of problems also. For me, actually, in brief, a bone marrow transplant, basically what they do is give you chemo and radiation and completely destroy your immune system. And then in my case, I would receive my brother's bone marrow as a transplant. So those were my 3 choices. Now, if I did the bone marrow transplant in my own particular case, these were my percentages, or my odds. Either the bone marrow transplant there would be a 30% chance that the procedure would kill me. If my other odd was if I survived the procedure, there was a 30% chance that my body would reject the transplant within the next 2 or 3 years. And my third odd was if all went well and I survived the bone marrow transplant, there would only be maybe a 50% chance at best that it would be successful in eliminating this disease. Well, needless to say, these were pretty grim odds for me. I didn't feel like these were in my favor at all, and I wasn't feeling good either. But I was feeling well enough that I felt I had a little window of time to make some decisions, and it was time to make a decision. At this point, I decided to just go to the universe and ask for some help. And I just knew with every fiber of my being that there was something there was something out there that could heal me and make me whole and better without having to go through these dramatic procedures. So I asked the universe to bring that information in that way to me. Well, the universe was wonderful. 2 weeks later, I got my answer. What was really nice is through my chemo procedure, I had been seeing an acupressurist named Heather, and she really helped me deal with the pain and the suffering from the chemo. Well, she has a friend named Alyssa, and Alyssa said that she knew of a man named Anush who was an energy healer and had great success working with leukemia and other cancer patients. His specialty was particularly cancers, and he had great success and had numerous patients that had been to see him. She felt it was very important that I got this information and that I consider seeing Anush. So I thought about it and I realized this was my answer. Here it is. So I got very excited and I called Anush and we spoke on the phone, and the very next day I came to his house. And it was quite an experience for me because it was everything I had asked for, and here it was. So, and yet it was a whole new experience. So we talked, and Anush talked about surgery. We talked about surgery and radiation and chemo as being things that tend to harm the tissues in the body and therefore make healing even take longer. And so he assured me that I was maybe looking in the right direction and I didn't need to do these dramatic things. And so after that, he had me stand up and he did what I call a body scan, where he just kind of scanned over me with his hand and kind of decided to got an idea of where my energy, what was going on in my energy field. And from what I understand, Anush looks for areas of density, and that's where the energy in my body had been blocked and it wasn't flowing. And what he told me after scanning me for a few minutes, and I must say that there's no touching. He does this with complete outside around the body. He said, well, Debbie, yes, you have a lot of negative energy in your body, and that negative energy creates blockages. And when there's blockages, your energy isn't flowing and your immune system can't function right. So my immune system, I knew, was very depressed. So anyways, but being the wonderful guy he is, he says, not to worry, I can help you. I was so relieved to hear that because it was the first positive thing I'd really heard, and he seemed to not be very worried and concerned. He seemed like everything is going to be okay, and that made me feel very, very comfortable. And also you have to think too, here I've got my doctors telling me, oh, you have this terrible disease, you're probably going to die, we have to put you through this torture and all these in pain and all these dramatic things. And Anusha's saying, well, no, I think just a few series of the energy treatments it should do it for you. So, well, I figured, what have I got to lose? Nothing, and I have everything to gain. So we proceeded with the treatments. I came to Anush for 14 treatments, which was almost every day in a row, and I felt very, very good after that. And after that was my first series, and then we decided, Anush told me that we needed to take a break of about 3 weeks. So we did. We took a 3-week break, and I found that the reason being is that my body needed to take a rest and not become dependent on Anush's energy work on me. So after the 3 weeks, then I returned, and we did another 12 sessions, and to my surprise and everything, at the end of that session, Anush said, oh, you're fine, everything is clear, your energy is flowing again, and everything is just fine, you know. And of course I felt very, very good. I didn't have the pain and the things that I was feeling before. Another wonderful side effect too, I forgot to mention, but when I was taking the chemo, it had put me into immediate menopause. My period stopped. I went into menopause. I started having hot flashes. I had night sweats. It was not fun. I know what that's all about now. Well, after my treatments with Anush, My periods came back. They were normal. In fact, they were even more stable and on a more regular basis than before. So that was a really nice surprise. And once again, because my body was functioning properly, my energy was flowing, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. So. And also, I thought I was probably going to need more treatments because, according to my doctors, I was in a very, very serious, state of, and had a lot of cancer cells in my system. But after 2 sessions, I was just fine. So that was really great. The results of this were, I had, again, no pain. I had no fatigue. I had no problems with my bones. I did not have to undergo surgery. I didn't do radiation. I didn't do chemotherapy. I wasn't doing any of the drugs I was doing before, certain steroids. I didn't have a declined quality of life. My quality of life was just wonderful. That would not be the case had I gone the other route. And I guess I would just like to say, too, in closing, that I really want you to know that my experience was not a miracle, and it was not a spontaneous remission, and it was not an act of God. It was completely, my body was healed through Anusha's treatments and his energy work, and that resulted in my healing. And if those treatments had not have worked, I could not be here today telling you this story. And I thank you, Anush, very much.
Imbalance, which was causing extreme pain in the breast, headaches. And so I thought that I would go see Anush. And with my first visit, because I'm very sensitive to energy and work doing energy therapy such as Anush, my very first experience with him was I felt the rush of the energy, such as I had never experienced before with anyone. The one thing that I noticed right off was a popping, like crackling, like in my ears. At that time, immediately, the pain that I used to experience that would come down through my arms and out was gone, and it has never returned. As well as the pain that I was experiencing in the liver. So while mine was not considered terminal, it was indeed an imbalance that was not getting any better. The other thing that had happened, because this hormonal imbalance was caused by a change of life, the change of life that I'm going through, the other thing that had happened was that my menstrual period had stopped. And since going to Anush, it has come back. The pain in the breast, the swelling of the breast has subsided, and relatively excellent health at this point.
In October, the doctors found a tumor in my thyroid gland. The doctors didn't promise healing. I went to Anushavan, and after 10 sessions, everything was gone. Now I have nothing. I feel very good, and I am very, very grateful.
I went to Anush. I asked him to check me, and he found that my thyroid wasn't working right, and actually was slow. I had a slow thyroid. He asked me if I want to be healed, and he started to do some healing sessions, which were about 3 or 4, after which I felt better, and I noticed after three months that I was 15 pounds. I was weighing, I weighed 15 pounds less than before. And I assumed that the healing I had with Anush worked on my weight, which I really didn't want to lose weight, but making my thyroid work better, perhaps I had a better burning of the food I was eating. Another situation was when I came to Anush for a cystitis I had for about 2 years on and off, and after what he healed me for that, I never had it again. So this is my short story.
The Spokane Symphony, and also I am principal guest conductor of KBS in Korea, Seoul, Korea. I came here in Los Angeles to meet Anushevan Manukian, and because I knew that he cures cancer. So a little bit history. I was diagnosed with a little bit more than a month ago with prostate cancer. It was terrible, of course, to know about this, and I was offered to do surgery. The only thing what was going to cure my cancer. But I heard from my best friend here in Los Angeles, Clara, that there is a guy who cures lots of different kind of cancers. And I gave him a call, and he invited me to come here, and he said he will take care of my cancer. During these 8 days, tomorrow will be my 9th day and last treatment. Yesterday, I went to local hospital to take ultrasound, and the result of this ultrasound was negative. So means I don't have any more cancer. I will continue treatments with Anushevan by telephone in a few weeks, and I'm sure I will be cured. I am already cured, but I will be cured at all. And I think this is miracle. But when I told Anushevan this is miracle, he said, no, this is not miracle. This is bioenergy. And by the way, I could feel everything when he was doing this treatment, although he never touched my body. I became a very positive patient. I was kind of helping to get rid myself to get rid from cancer with my positive feelings, which is, I'm sure, much more easier for Anushevan to get rid from cancer. So I'm happy. I'm going home.
Very happy, healthy girl, full of life and energy. One day, my son walked her home as usual. The next morning, he received a call telling him that she was in the hospital and was dead. Turned out she had a weak heart, and she had fell into a coma. Her heart had stopped for a very long time. In that amount of time, her body had already gotten cold, and her brain couldn't work at all because of loss of oxygen.
Такой промежуток, как она уже была холодная, уже мозг не может работать вообще, там уже нет ни кислорода, не заходило ничего. И она, значит, на второй день врачи сказали, что они могут отключить аппарат, и даже предложили это, потому что нет надежды. И она уже как мертвая, и будущего никакого нету.
I remembered that I had read an article in the magazine about Anush. Before that, there was no one who spoke or wrote about that. He was first.
Тогда еще никто себя не объявлял, и никогда это был первый Ануш, который о себе написал. И я позвонила,
I called him, and we invited him to the hospital in the intensive care, where no one was allowed.
В больнице, где она лежала, туда никого не впускали.
My son, Anush, and the girl's father went into the room. At the moment when the session was in progress, she started moving her feet, her arms, her head, her eyes, gave signs that she could hear. And the monitor was showing that she had brain damage and that she doesn't understand anything. The doctor said it was a miracle. It's been 3 months that she's been home. I was sick. I had a sickness where water collected inside my ears. Not real actual water, but that was the diagnosis. I had a lot of pain in my ears, especially at night. For a couple of years, I went only to American doctors, good doctors, and I was told that surgery couldn't help, and was told to take antibiotics. And how much antibiotics could I take? After Jennifer's healing, Anush came to my mind. My situation was getting worse, and I went to Anush. I am healing now, and I don't know where all the pain has gone. I had a problem with my voice. I had lost my voice, and my job requires talking. My wife suggested to go to the doctor. The doctor took some tests and told me to have surgery. I didn't want to go through surgery and decided to go to Anushavan and had a session with him. After Anush's sessions, I went back to the doctor in the hospital. The doctor said he couldn't see the polyp that used to be there, and my voice started to come back. And how you saw signs of the disease in the child, and how you found Anush and what doctors you had to go through. In 1967, in February, we noticed a tumor in my son. It was very noticeable. And the tumor was growing quickly. It worried us, and we went to the oncology center. We found good doctors and professors. They all came to the conclusion that it was a malignant tumor called sarcoma. I lost all hope, thinking that there was no chance of him getting better. Without hope, through a friend, we went to the head doctor of the blood transfusion center with hope that they might help my son, being the head doctor of the children's blood transfusion center. How old was he at this time? He was 4 years old, and day by day he was becoming skinnier and weaker. It was getting worse. When we went to the doctor, I can't forget the answer that I got from the head doctor. Being a woman and a mother, she was very unbelievable and rough. When I asked her if I could take him home, and I asked her what we can do, she said, "You need to bring him now. He needs a blood transfusion, and it must be done now." I wanted to take him home and then bring him back to the hospital every day, thinking that maybe he wasn't in such a bad condition and he could be healed. She said that it would have been impossible. And she said that I would have been a lucky mother if it was a treatable disease. If treatment was found, it would take a miracle to heal the son. Without hope again, we decided to fly to Moscow to find treatment there, thinking that maybe better doctors might be found and they might have a treatment. In Moscow's oncology center, we talked to doctors and they ran their tests.
Եվրեյ պրոֆեսորի մոտ եղանք, ազգանունը ցավոք սրտի չեմ հիշում, չեմ էլ ուզում հիշել, եւ պրոֆեսորի մոտ եղանք համոզելով իհարկե, ես դեմ էի բիոպսիային էլ, պունկցիային էլ, ոսկրածուց վերցնելուն էլ, ինձ համոզեցին եւ հույս տվեցին, որ կարող է պատահի մեկի մեջ լինի այդ միկրոբները, մյուսի մեջ չլինի այդ բացիլները. Եվ բոլոր անալիզները վերցնելուց հետո մայիսի 13-ին կանչեցին,
On May 13, we went back to find out what they had found.
Դիագնոզը ասեն ինչ է եւ ինչ բուժումներ է հարկավոր։ Մայիսի 13-ին որ գնացինք պատասխանը iմանալու,
with a nice smile, the doctor greeted us and kissed my son. I really wanted to find out what the diagnosis was, so I asked the doctor. He asked me if I didn't already know about it, but I wanted to find out from them. He said that the diagnosis was proved to be right, and they were going to start treatment.
Չնայած մենք տեղեր չունենք, բայց որ երեխային շատ սիրեցինք, լավ երեխա է, ես տեղ կազատեմ, երեխային պետք է պարկասնել եւ անմիջապես այսօրվանից բուժում է հարկավոր։ Մենք չհամաձայնվեցինք։
Me and my husband didn't agree to start treatment, and we wanted the numbers of patients who were healed, and then we would agree to take him back for treatment if there had been any cases. The doctor said that there hadn't been any cases where the patient was healed entirely, but they prolonged life. I went to see some patients in conditions that made me feel worse. So, without hope, we returned to Yerevan in a gathering. A person who knew about my son had spoken of my son and his disease. The conversation was about how it had happened to such a young, beautiful child and how awful it was that a malignant cancer could attack children.
Որտեղից է երեխաներին կպնում այդ ուռուցքը խոսակցությունը լրիվ անծանոթ միջավայրում է եղել, որտեղ Անուշավանի գործընկերներից մեկն է եղել։
A colleague of Anushavan was there and suggested that the kid be taken to Anushavan. Even though he was busy and didn't take too many patients, but knowing that the child was 4 years old, he would take him. And the very first time we met Anushavan in the theater. And right now, I want to thank the person who recommended us to Anushavan and changed my son's destiny. From Anushavan, we are very grateful. Words can't explain. In our family, after God, comes Anushavan, since he saved the life of my son.
Ես նման ածական չեմ գտնում, որ արժան լինի Անուշավանի անձի հետ կապելուն։
I can't find words enough to describe him.
Բառից բուն իմաստով մարդ անշահախնդիր, այսօրվա վիճակով, որ ես մարդկանց պատմում եմ ասեմ, մենք պատրաստ ենք մեր տունը ամեն ինչը վաճառելու, մենակ երեխայի բուժումը գտնելու համար,
just to see our son live a healthy life. But Anushavan did everything without any money. He did everything with love. He promised that within a year my son would be fine. The first session was on June 4th, and on November 7th, the tumor was gone entirely. Right after the first session, I noticed a difference. Can you describe the first session, what you saw and felt? The first time, from happiness, I wasn't feeling well. The first session took place in the theater. He was very pleasant and kind with my son. He asked me to examine the tumor so that I could feel the difference later, after the session. I know the tumor very well. I knew every side of it perfectly. Anushavan began the session, and I started not to feel well. I don't know if it was from his power or my happiness. During the session, when Anush held his hand, it sounded like a short circuit in electricity. I could hear the sounds when he was moving his hand in the direction of the tumor. I wasn't sure if it was from that, but I concentrated to hear it. After he moved his hand a couple of times, the tumor started moving. At that time, I remembered the doctor who said that I would be lucky if the tumor was moving, or if it was a disease that could be healed. My first hope was right after the first session. I can't tell how much the tumor had gotten smaller, but after the third session, less than half of it was left. Anushavan left the city for about 5 days. The tumor began getting bigger, and my worries began again. His wife, who is very welcoming and pleasant, gave me a lot of hope until Anushavan was back. After he returned, the tumor disappeared entirely. The impossible became possible. Anushavan made it possible. And now your son is entirely healthy. He used to be skinny and unhealthy. Now he eats well and he's very healthy. He eats well. He's fine, and I'm very thankful. What do you think? After all this, people of course have positive beliefs. What can you say about that belief which people have towards you? Recently in the Russian newspaper, Panorama, there was an article about bioenergy. It was the result of research on bioenergy, which was done secretly in the Soviet Union. Now every information from the archives is out, and there are no secrets. There was a very interesting fact. Adolf Hitler was studying about bioenergy. He had opened a university. He had a laboratory where they researched and studied biotherapy. From India, he had invited lamas who were working in the university. There was an interesting incident when Mussolini was captured. Otto Skorzeny liberated him. The way they found Mussolini was that in the university, the 6 lamas sat down together with the map of the world on the table. Hitler asked them to find where they were hiding Mussolini, and all 6 of them were able to point on the same spot. All 6 of them had given the number of the room where Mussolini was, and that's the way they had been able to find him and free him. So what you are saying is that you have the strength, the ability to use it in such cases. No, I want to say that there is no need to get into a book of science fiction. All this is very real. I want to tell you about another incident, that when the Soviet tanks entered Berlin, they were commanded to turn the engines off. After turning all the engines off, the tanks became a fixed target, and many were destroyed. It turned out that there was no such command. It was a telepathic command from the Germans. All this information was pulled out of from the archives. And today, why isn't this kind of power used in the government? What do you think? In the Panorama article, it was very well written. A group of scientists, with the head scientist in charge, had studied bioenergy. They did experiments. The first experiment was done on an egg. They studied the changes as it turned into a chick. Then they did it on a dead human body to see what changes take place, the impulses after death. That way they reached many results and came up with real good answers. Then Andropov tried to get a job for him, the head scientist in the KGB. But he had refused to do it. And he lost all his rights to work as a scientist in laboratories and had lost his license to study or experiment. And what was amazing was that he was working in the train serving people. But still, they were studying and experimenting in the train. They were able to mathematically calculate the power which extrasense people like me are having after working with bioenergy. Turned out that the energy that we use at that moment, if we turn it into heat energy, it is equal to the heat energy of the sun, which has a mass of 100 times greater than of a person. For example, if I weigh 70 kilograms and we take 7 tons of the sun's portion, the heat released from that is equal to the energy which is released at that moment.